What's up guys, I'm Bryce from Righteous Reptiles, and today I'm going to show you how to set up a snake enclosure for your first pet snake. So I first want to start off by saying this is for terrestrial species and particularly a ball python, although you can use it for other species as well because it's not the care that I'm going to give to you but the enclosure setup itself. And this is for a juvenile ball python. It's a fairly big enclosure for the snake, but they should do just fine. So something you want to remember is to get a heat pad. Get your heat pad in first, right over here. And then, even if you've just bought your new enclosure from the shops, I would recommend you spray it down with F10. This gets rid of any airborne germs that could be caught by the enclosure itself that you got at a pet store or wherever you bought it, because generally there are animals and other airborne stuff that we don't want to be given to our animals. So it's always better safe than sorry. The disinfectant I've chosen is obviously F10, as you can see, and once you spray it, wait a few minutes, then you can wipe it off, then you can spray again and then wipe it off, and then get to setting up your enclosure. So the first thing you'll want to choose is a nice substrate. I have chosen cocoa fiber and cocoa husk. Well, this is mainly cocoa husk in this setup because it holds humidity really well and it doesn't mold easily. So as I said, this is a setup for generally a ball python, but you can get tips from this for other species as well. Most terrestrial snake species should do pretty well in this setup, unless they are some sort of burrowing species, but it all depends on how you care for them. So why I've chosen a wooden vivarium and not an aquarium is because with a higher heat loving species like a ball python, this will keep the heat in way better than an aquarium would, and it holds a bit more humidity just because it doesn't have the full screen top like most glass tanks for snakes. So it keeps the humidity in, especially that I'm in a dry area. That's why it's needed. So once you have your heat mat already in the enclosure, you'll obviously want to connect it to a power source as well as a thermostat. A thermostat's very important because what that does is it controls the temperature to what you set it on the hotspot, which is very important because during the day you may get fluctuations of hot and cold spells in your area, which is not good for the certain snake you are keeping. So let's put the substrate in. You can basically just dump it in and spread it around. You don't need too much substrate, but as you can see, I'm going to add another bucket full because I like more substrate, because some snakes, they do tend to like to burrow in it. Now I'm just going to dump the second bucket in. Now just spread it around nicely and nice and evenly for the snake. As you can see, that looks quite nice right there. Something I wanted to add is I don't have the glass front here because of the horrible glare it would give the camera. Because I'm not keeping the snake in here, this is just for demonstrational purposes. So now that you have your substrate in, there are a few things that you will need. You'll need a hide, like so. Multiple are better than one, a water dish, and furniture for your snake. Basically that consists of branches and fake trees, or even real trees and vines and stuff if you go into bioactive setups, which we are not doing today. So now you have to decide where you want to put all of your furniture for your snake. It's important to try and keep a hide on the hot spot as well as the cool spot, and then something in between so he doesn't feel all scared when he's moving about the enclosure. If this is your first snake, you do not need to practice the use of quarantine, but if you have multiple animals and you're setting up this enclosure, it's advised to quarantine this animal for about 2 months before you add it into your collection. I am going to do a video soon on quarantining your reptiles, so don't worry about that. So I'm going to come over here and put the decor in to my desired positions. This may take a few tries to get what you like, but don't worry about it, you'll get there eventually. Something I want to add, this is just a rock, it's not a heat rock. I don't advise using heat rocks, I advise using heat pads. Yeah, so this is just a rock for decor. As you can see, I've put the rock right here. I'm not sure if I like this position, but I've put it right here so it can't fall on top of the snake. Now it's just basically deciding where you want it. So this is a small hide for the snake, but because it's going to be in the far back end of the enclosure, they should be okay. You should enjoy it, and there's going to be other logs and stuff on the hide itself. I'm not too certain, but I think I like this design of where I've placed all the things in the enclosure. And remember, have fun while setting up your snake enclosure. And it's not permanent, you can always move things around. Okay, so as you can see here, I have this beautiful little yellow belly female ball python. She is one of my hatchlings, and she is going to go in this enclosure. And I know what you may be thinking. Bryce, I've heard many people say this is way too big of an enclosure for such a small snake. I disagree. So yes, you can have an enclosure that's too big for your snake, but as long as there's enough foliage in the enclosure, I believe your snake will do absolutely fine in such a large enclosure for its size. Because snakes are shy creatures, but they don't have small spaces in the wild. They have the whole area that they live in to explore. I mean, surely a baby snake won't be stressed out about this enclosure that's just a bit bigger than what's recommended. But if you keep a hide in the enclosure and nothing else, no foliage for it to feel secure around when it's moving and hide behind, then I do believe you're doing it wrong, and then the enclosure will be way too big. So if you can't get nice foliage in the enclosure or furniture in the enclosure, then I do agree that you should get a smaller enclosure. So let's let her go into her new enclosure and explore around a bit. You must always have the enclosure set up before you get your snake. That's very, very important. And then once you get your new snake, please guys, don't go about holding it too much. Try keep your holding time of the snake to a minimum, as they can get stressed out, especially if they are your new pets and they haven't acclimated to you or your lifestyle. And in my previous video, I talk a bit more about these vivariums and that. You can click up here to find out a bit more about it. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video and would like to see more, comment down below on what you would like to see me make, and subscribe if you would like to see more content in general. Thank you guys for watching. Bryce from Righteous Reptiles. Enjoy this montage of this beautiful little snake. Cheers.